With the upcoming remake on the way, I thought I'd go back and take a look at Resident Evil 2. Can this game from 1998 still even impact now like it did back then? Atmosphere. Resident Evil 2's atmosphere is out of despair and hopelessness. Everyone who isn't dying has already become a zombie, and you're on your own in an undead-infested police station. The atmosphere is never overbearing, and on average I just felt mildly uneasy whilst wandering around. On very few occasions when the tense music faded away, I was filled with dread at what was coming up ahead. Fear of the unknown, sometimes delivered on, sometimes there's just nothing. Even the loading screens when the doors open slowly is sometimes nerve-wracking. This one scene earlier in the game when a licker briefly climbs across a window was one of the few times I had to slow down because I was genuinely nervous. It's a well-executed scripted event, it subtly builds the fear. Overall, the game's tension stays at an unnerving level nearly constantly, but never pushes it above that. One Harry Mason. Scares. On the fine layer of atmosphere, the game sets you up time and time again with these really well executed events. Sometimes something bursts through a window, sometimes zombies flood the room. The jump scares are timed perfectly, but the terror of dealing with what caused it is the more important part, which leads me to the combat. It's clunky, awkward, and sometimes there's nothing you can do to stop the sheer number of enemies from overpowering you and killing you. You want to reload faster, but you can't. You want to run, but there's nowhere to go. You panic, and that's what makes up the majority of the fear. That's 2 Harry Masons. Sound design. Let's be honest, it's the PlayStation 1. There's obvious hardware limitations, but the music does a great job of keeping the feeling of dread going. The effects are always loud and sudden, and the sound of slurping and the groans of the zombies are haunting, but ultimately they're nothing too special. That's still 2 Harry Masons. Gore. There's lots of it, and for the hardware limitation, it looks surprisingly good. The mutations on the Birkin monster are still grotesque. Watching his body contort and seeing the eye pop out and look around is just really gnarly. Same for the zombie transformation of the police officer. The gore isn't excessive, it's realistic, despite the limitations, but in my opinion, it's pretty awesome for the time. That's 3 Harry Masons. Story. Rookie cop Leon Kennedy and Claire Redfield, sister of Chris from the original game, pair up and go to Raccoon City Police Department in hope of finding help. What they find is destruction and the undead, and the story unfolds about corruption, secret experiments for Umbrella. There's a lot of interesting things to find in the diary entries, which are real B-movie style write-ups, but they're still fun to read. The story is fairly decent and it's told well. It pulls you in and there's a lot of dramatic scenes as it reaches its climax. Making the final score 4 out of 5 Harry Masons. Resident Evil 2 is probably the only one in the series I've played so far that has genuinely scared me and left a mark. It's a great game, and let's hope the remake captures the same essence that made the original one of the best horror games of its time. Again, I'd like to remind you this whole thing is down to my opinion in horror games, and if you don't share this opinion, then that's cool, I get it. I'd like to point out that whilst I chuckled a little as I blew up that alligator, I did not scream like a banshee or run away from the computer, and I advise you don't either. There will be more horror reviews in the pipeline, and thanks for watching. Always go check out Bumps in the Middle of the Night. Peace.